There's bad news for Star Wars fans. After years waiting for the next Star Wars movie to come out, and after tons of announcements, we still don't have official word on what's going to be next. But we do know what won't happen next. And after a very powerful start to The Mandalorian, we have some theories on why they started where they did. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink, your place for everything Star Wars gaming, the TV shows, and the movies. Let's jump right in.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him.
Star Wars movies, you know, the things that really bring people to the theaters, the uniting force for the last 40 plus years. This whole Disney Plus thing is very, very new. Mm-hmm. But, man, they've been riding on it for a long time because, again, we're almost 4 years from the last Star Wars movie. And by the time the new Star Wars movie comes out, it's going to be 6 years since the last Star Wars movie. But we've got some sad news, unfortunately.
Is it going to be even longer now?
It is going to be quite some time. First off, though, let's lay down the foundation.
Okay.
Throughout the past, I don't know, probably decade. Decade, because 2012 is when Disney bought Lucasfilm.
Yep.
Also, they bought them for $4 billion. That seems like a very low amount of money when you talk about, like, acquisitions now.
Yeah.
But all that aside, we had The Force Awakens, which was huge. It broke the box office. It was massive. Then we got Rogue One, which was also fantastic.
Yep.
Loved that movie. Still love that movie. Then we got The Last Jedi. Also broke records and continued the story of Star Wars. Then 6 months later, we got Solo, a Star Wars story. And then we got The Rise of Skywalker. Alongside all of this, we had the rise of the Disney Plus era, where we have The Mandalorian, we have the Book of Boba Fett, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi. We have all these different pieces and TV shows, everything, the expansion of the books, the cleaning of the slate, everything, the video games, all of it. And then it stopped. But before it stopped, they announced like a crap ton of projects. We're going to get a Lando show. We're going to get this Star Wars movie. We're going to get this Star Wars movie. And then an amount of time passes. And then they say, oh, look at this. We've got 6 untitled Star Wars movies on the docket. And this is when we're going to expect them. Then an increasing amount of time passed. And then they said, oh, wait, you know these Star Wars movies we announced? Well, they're not going to happen. They're all canceled.
Yeah.
Except for this one and this one and this one. Also, we announced 3 more. But we can't do them because they're super busy.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, hey, Bob Iger's back, and he's canceling even more Star Wars projects.
Is this franchise cursed?
It seems like it might be.
What is going on? I need answers. I need like something solid to just put my teeth on because they can't keep doing this to me.
I know, right? Well, we do have some answers, at least in terms of the thinking behind it. Bob Iger said this recently, quote, Star Wars, we made 3 what we call saga films, which is obviously the successors to George Lucas's first 6. They did very well at the box office, tremendously well, as a matter of fact. We've made 2 so-called standalones in Rogue One and Solo. Rogue One did quite well. Solo was a little disappointing to us. Gave us pause just to think maybe the cadence was a little too aggressive, and so we decided to pull back a bit. We still are developing Star Wars films. We're going to make sure that when we make one, that it's the right one. So we are being very careful there. This is the behind the curtains look at what Lucasfilm and Disney are thinking when it comes to Star Wars. They've realized it's massive with the rise of Disney Plus. One of the main reasons that Disney Plus has so many subscribers is because of Star Wars.
It's true.
Mando was a cultural movement. Grogu was a cultural icon.
Is a cultural icon.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they definitely have reason to be careful with it because a missed Star Wars project, while still successful, could damage the brand, and they want to continue making Star Wars movies and having them be successful.
Okay, but that's all well and good, but why keep telling us these things? Like, why keep sharing, oh my gosh, we're going to have this, and we're going to have this, and we're going to have this, and then, oh, sorry, that fell through, and that did too, and we've got this lawsuit going on this one, and like, so sorry, guys.
Yeah. Seriously.
But how about this and this and that? Like, I feel like
guys,
we're
still making Star Wars projects.
I know.
Like,
I feel like they're just throwing stuff at us and seeing what sticks. Like, but that's not how this works, guys.
Yeah.
Let's get it together.
Decide internally what you're going to do, and then do it. And also vet whether or not the director, one, has time before you approach them and announce their project. Two, is it someone that you can work with? Three, don't release them very close to each other. And four, keep on making Mando.
Yeah, please.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like, Solo was very disappointing to us, obviously, from a sales perspective, for sure. And it's all of their fault because, one, they did a terrible job with choosing the directors. I don't think the directors themselves had an issue, but they micromanaged them so hardcore that they're like, we're done. We're not doing this anymore.
Right.
So 80% of the project, they had to get Ron Howard to take over, do a bunch of reshoots, Disney did not give them enough time to get the reshoots that they all wanted to do. And therefore we have Solo, which I still enjoy. It's still a great time.
Yeah.
I love it way more than The Rise of Skywalker. But in terms of like the amount of strife behind the scenes, Lucasfilm is terrible. They have a terrible track record.
And I'm sure that puts a lot of stress on the people who are coming into these projects being like, okay, but we all know what we're getting ourselves into.
And also the projects themselves. Because you go into they announce your project like immediately as soon as they have lunch with you. They're like, you're making a Star Wars thing? Great. We don't have a contract. We don't have a timeline. We don't have anything. Let's announce it. No, don't do that.
Give what the people want. It's like, hang on.
Stop it.
I appreciate
please.
that they're trying, at least by lifting this little corner of the curtain.
We're really stressed out and freaking out, guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that they're at least saying that they want to make the best that they possibly can.
It is appreciated.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want. And we don't want a Marvel situation with Star Wars. We don't want a movie every 3 months.
No.
That does not work with Star Wars. No. Star Wars was historically like an every 3 or 4 year thing. And then there was a span of a decade. And then there were more Star Wars movies within the span of like 2 years of each other. And then there's a span of a decade. And then there's more Star Wars movies about 2 years from each other. Like that's what we expect as fans.
Yeah.
It's not Marvel, which has been spitting out 2 movies a year since it started and now does like 3 or 4. So no, calm down on the cadence. Keep on making the shows because those are great. Those are great in between filler stuff of like, okay, we've got Star Wars. We're continuing to get Star Wars. But the big box office stuff, that's on the movies. And you have to make those an event. But why are we talking about this? Obviously, everything's great, right? Well, we have some bad news for Star Wars movies. You know that Kevin Feige movie that we talked about a couple weeks ago on the podcast? Yeah, that's not happening anymore.
No. Dang it.
Patty Jenkins' project is somehow even more dead than it was.
Yeah, because like we haven't heard anything.
They
like
announced it
even quieter
with this cool video, and they're like, "Oh, sweet! It's gonna be basically like Top Gun and Star Wars. It's gonna be great. I'm honoring my family who was in the Air Force. Sweet, sounds great. Also, I'm not doing it right now because I've got Wonder Woman 3. Then DC happened, and then they were like, okay, now it's not gonna work out now. So they put it on the back burner until she had more time, and then she had more time, and Lucasfilm was like, yeah, we'll talk about it. Let's see. And then
so now
it got brought back to life. And then they're like, wait, nope, that doesn't sound like something we want to make right now.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, my gosh. So they're shooting themselves in the foot with this one then.
It seems to be a both sides thing. Obviously, they're like, well, you didn't have time for us before. We're really looking at what we want to make, and it's got to be big. It can't just be the small thing. Like, we need to make a big impact after so much time.
True.
And every year they don't make a Star Wars movie, the more
pressure.
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Understood.
It's funny to me that one of the producers on Lost and Taika Waititi are the only basically sure things that we're getting in terms of Star Wars. What?
Interesting.
Taika Waititi is also reportedly looking to star in his own project. I think that's great. I mean, he's got a great track record when it comes to Star Wars. Literally had only one misfire when it came to Marvel, and that was Thor: Love and Thunder. But that was a lot of behind-the-scenes production stuff too, and timelines on Marvel side of things that he doesn't have any control of. So I mean, I think he's a pretty solid director. And then you got Damon Lindelof, who is also like, he's got a good background in all these different things. Yeah, he is pretty up there in terms of like respected in the industry. He's done a lot of different things.
Wow.
I think that's a pretty surefire shot right there.
We can only hope.
Yes, but Damon Lindelof reportedly is the next project that we'll see from Disney Lucasfilm, and it's going to be 2025. And it's probably going to be announced officially at Star Wars Celebration.
Mm-hmm. They've got to announce, I mean, they don't have to, but they probably will announce something there.
They basically have to. I mean, it's Star Wars fans getting all together. They have a Lucasfilm panel that they're going to probably announce thing. I think they open it with that Lucasfilm panel.
I appreciate what Bob Iger was saying about how like they really want to pay attention and like make good things for Star Wars, but at the same time,
think about what they're making.
Yeah, at the same time, there's already so much pressure behind all this. I don't know that they're going to be able to not succumb.
Yeah.
And not just pump something out and be
you
like,
know, everyone at Lucasfilm is going to be like, oh, could you change this? Yeah. The color on that person's jacket, it's really clashing with the background. Like,
and we're going to need you to
months
absolutely
into the project.
Reshoot all of that.
Yeah.
And you only have a week.
Yeah, you have a week. You also have no budget, and we want you to reshoot the entire movie. Can you do that real quick?
How about that?
Great. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Let's hope it just gets better from here.
Let's hope so. I have high hopes. I also have high hopes and low expectations with Star Wars.
It's a great combination.
It's a great combination. So they want to really make sure that they're doing the things that are going to bring in the cash. And Star Wars movies are definitely going to do that. But it's looking like it's going to be another 2 years before that happens because no Star Wars project has gone into production for the movies. Pre-production, a couple. But you know what is super solid? Mandalorian. We're going to continue getting Mandalorian. We're going to continue seeing that side of the Star Wars galaxy, and I am all for it. I think especially with Episode 2, we're seeing a good direction for it. Before we recorded the podcast, we were talking a bit about what we thought on the direction of the thing. We did a video on the channel on what the mythosaur means and what direction they could possibly go. I think it's fascinating that they decided to do let's kick off season 3 with episode 1 being really weird.
I don't like it. I kind of feel cheated, or not cheated, but like
I was lied to.
Yeah, I feel a little lied to. I feel a little misled, shall I say?
Yeah.
Because so we were all kind of talking about it at the beginning. We were just like, wow, this is kind of a really weird start to Mandalorian, and it was.
It felt so weird. It didn't have any of the impact or like the gravitas that you'd expect on a premiere of a new season of The Mandalorian. Considering the first one was so awesome, the second one was so awesome. The third one's like, guys, we haven't left at all.
Right? Yeah. But, like, why would you do that?
Or, if you were going to do that, do like what you do with Bad Batch, where you release 2 episodes.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, it rubs me wrong. It rubs me the wrong way.
Or they did that with Andor, where they released 2 at the same time.
Yeah, but I thought that was just because they pushed it back.
Kind of, yeah, they did that. But I think a lot of it, too, was just to get an understanding of what the story beats are going to look like.
Right.
When you know that this is how you're going, you have to train your audience of like what to expect and what to really like take into account with the show. But yeah, Andor did that. But Andor also has 12 episodes instead of Mando season 3's 8, I think.
Yeah, but in that thinking, you're telling me that I can now expect to be misled per episode, like,
yeah, truly,
who knows what's gonna happen next.
It was so weird going from episode 1 where it's like, I need IG-11.
Yeah,
he needs to be here. I need him to do this job, otherwise I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it with any other droid. It's the only one I trust. And then it's like, crap, I need this motherboard chip. Okay, well, let's go to this person I know. Oh wait, nope, they got R4, R5, R4, D4 droid. Perfectly fine. Let's do this. Great. Okay.
And in a way,
you're sold.
Yeah. In a way, this makes actually Din Djarin weaker as a character.
I think it shows some character growth, honestly, because we're seeing him like, okay, I don't have to have the thing anymore. My ultimate goal is to go to Mandalore, and I'm just going to go to Mandalore with any droid now.
Okay, but why didn't we get that process then? Like it wasn't a talk or anything.
That one lady on Tatooine is a great saleswoman.
She's not. But if we could be convinced that she was,
Yeah.
sure. Yes, absolutely.
That's the weird thing is like they didn't have to set up the first episode
They didn't.
that way to have the payoff that the second episode had.
It was just weird. Like, why make that choice? Even if they had it back to back, I think we would still be having this conversation.
It was weird. And what's funny too is like they set it up like the whole thing would be the mythosaur being this ultimate like journey that Din's gonna go to or Mandalore is gonna go to, and then in the second episode they have all of that, which I really appreciate because now we have so much more space to go on. Like I honestly don't know where we're gonna go next, which is really exciting. They did a great job with the trailers of saying, "Hey, here's this. We're only going to take the content for the trailer from episode 1 and 2, and then a little bit from later on, where they have like New Republic and the Coruscant scene."
Right.
But the rest of that trailer is mostly from the first and second episode, which I love that side of things. But it's so weird that they're like, "Here's this big MacGuffin. You're gonna have to search for it." And what we're going to lead you towards is it's seeming like this is going to be the whole season that we go on this journey. You have to find the motherboard chip for IG-11 because he has the ability to walk around and protect Grogu. Okay, that makes sense. To get to Mandalore, you're going to have to do all these things, and you have to have the whole journey of the third season is going to be, and the whole journey of the third season is going to be this journey to be bathed in the waters.
Right.
That's what we're here for. Seemed like that was going to be the whole season. They got knocked out in 2 episodes.
I would like to also go back to the whole point about him going and wanting IG-11. It wasn't that because it was somehow had reprogrammed itself to protect Grogu. It was really because that was the first droid he'd ever trusted.
Yes.
And now we just get
which I think is good. And that's where I mentioned like the character development of like now he's past his childhood trauma of not trusting droids now. He's like, okay, that droid was good, and he was a murdering robot.
I'm still not
so this
believing
astromech
it, though.
droid could also be good now.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense.
It makes sense, but it wasn't done
Not through
well.
the story,
No.
but through our perceptions of what Din could be thinking. It makes sense. Headcanon-wise, it makes sense. I do agree with you, though, of the whole, they didn't do it well.
No.
It's why, when you're writing this span here, why would you do that? Why would you say, hey, here's this MacGuffin, and then it's going to immediately get proven false in the second episode? You're training us as the audience not to trust you as the storyteller.
Right. Even if we had had this conversation between Din and High Magistrate Grief or Karga, even if we had that conversation between them where the magistrate was like, listen, I know you're really sold on this, but maybe just think about something else. Like if we had just had something a little bit more memorable as far as him saying that, it would have just made that much more sense.
Well, it makes like the first episode not even important.
Yeah.
Like if you're going on a rewatch, why would you watch the first episode?
Don't.
Like it doesn't add anything to the story. It's completely unraveled in the second episode.
I'm sure the pirates are going to come back in.
Yeah.
But I don't think we needed the introduction at the first episode to make that
it could
make
have been
sense
like,
coming in again.
oh, during the break at some point he ran into the pirates and there's a thing. Or,
right.
Like you could totally start with episode 2 as the season premiere. That is way more impactful as a season premiere. I wonder if they were like, they started that off and they're like, oh man, we're getting there a little too quick. Let's go back and make an actual episode 1 and episode 2 is episode 2. I could see that happening because there is no connection. There's no reference to what happens really except for the whole thing of like, I need I need this computer chip.
Yep. I need this and I need to go to the living waters.
But he's like, okay, that astromech droid, perfectly fine. That's great. Let's go. I'm sad though that they got rid of his little pod.
His little pod.
Grogu's little pod in the back.
Oh yeah, yeah. We don't get to see him in his little like looking at all the space things.
But I guess it works out too because then Din is teaching Grogu like how to use the components and everything like that. But that was the perfect Grogu pod. It's a really strange thing to start this off that way. Episode 2 though, like that was good. That was some good Mando there. Where do you think they're gonna go?
Gosh, I mean, obviously the pot's got to get stirred and things have got to get a lot more messy than they are.
Yeah.
We got to get a new bad guy in here. So
We still have Moff Gideon out there somewhere.
Yeah, so we're probably getting the Empire in here somehow.
Definitely. Pirates are a thing. Christmas face pirate man. I think maybe he's like a subplot. It's like he's probably going to be the mid-season distraction. Like if we're going to take this apart, like storytelling beats and all that kind of stuff. Usually in the middle section, something happens to deter them or distract them in the middle of the season. Usually, that's probably what it's going to be.
Yeah.
In season 2, it was his ship getting crash landed and having to go through all that. And in season 1, it was his ship getting taken apart by the Jawas, so he couldn't really like go much further into his journey. Din and his ship, man, he just needs to lock that up a little bit better.
Yeah, lock that up tight, buddy. But now it's smaller, so now it's just gonna get like taken out of the sky or something.
I love though in episode 1 where he just flips the thing, is like.
Yeah, that was great.
It's a good callback. But that all happens in Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, it's true. Literally, this was all just so that we could be refreshed.
Yeah.
But then it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
I just felt like there could have been such a better way to do it.
There probably could have been. Yeah.
What do you have any predictions as far as season 3 goes?
I think I don't know if it's going to be this season or the next season, but I think at some point we're going to see the journey to reclaiming Mandalore include the Mythosaur, include trying to have this big showing of power and control of either riding the Mythosaur, hopefully not killing it because it's cool. Don't kill it. But I think what we might be seeing next is like the armorer being like, you didn't bathe in the waters. That's not true. You're still not a Mandalorian. And then he has to go on his own journey of discovering what it means to be a Mandalorian to him. So I don't see the armorer being like, yeah, welcome back. Everything's great. Maybe so.
Right.
But I think that might be a hiccup. But I think the ultimate bad guy of this show is still Moff Gideon. I think Moff Gideon, 1, doesn't want Din walking around with the Darksaber all the time. And 2, Bo-Katan. And 3, Grogu, who still is pretty important to their plans, obviously. Otherwise, why did they do that in season 2? I feel like Moff Gideon still has a pretty big role to play. And I think maybe we're going to see what happens when the Empire's on Coruscant, possibly. Could be cool. But I do think that a lot of it's going to ride on what the Mythosaur is. Obviously, this is the Mandalorian. They're going to talk about the Mandalorians. They're going to go through the Mandalorian things. They're going to tame the Mythosaur. They're going to do something along those lines, reclaiming Mandalore. I think that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
But also sub goals in between there is like Din Djarin's character growth and development, Grogu's training in the Watch, and Din really like expanding what his definition of the Mandalorian is.
I kind of hope, well, no, I really hope that they do not do what they did in Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett, when we just suddenly see him riding the Rancor.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was so dumb.
Like, let's get a little bit more time here.
Yeah.
I would be a little bit surprised if we see much of the Mythosaur, just because they've already revealed it so early. And
I don't think we're going to see it again. I don't
No.
think they're going to spend much more time on Mandalore.
Agreed.
For a little while until they can get their bearings on what they're going to do.
Yeah, probably until like the end of the season. I would expect we don't go back. But who knows? They've lied to me already and they've led me astray. So now I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. But let us know your thoughts in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, or contact@uplinkpodcast.com. Where do you think the next steps for Mandalorian, all the goodness? Who's the bad guy? That's the question. That's the question I want to ask.
Yeah.
And answered. Who do you think the bad guy is going to be in The Mandalorian? Let us know in the comments on YouTube, contact@uplinkpodcast.com, or @StarWarsUplink on the platforms socially. As always, hey, thanks for watching and listening. You can listen to the podcast wherever you find podcasts, and you can check us out on YouTube for some fun content and the video version of the podcast. As always, thank you so much for listening, and may the Force be with you. They have an Ahsoka panel. They have there's rumors of like a skeleton crew thing. Star Wars Eclipse is going to be there. Like they're getting a lot of the band back together, trying to get the hype back up.
Star Wars Eclipse is going to be there?
Star Wars Eclipse is going to be there. I don't know why, considering we'll be 45 when that game comes out, but they're showing it off again for some reason.
Hey, they got more pretty footage.
I guess so. Apparently, I don't know why it's there.
Wow, it's going to be a wild time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,